my partner AJ and I got together and we thought of like, how can we create what's the safest dining experience we can create if we had no budget, right? So basically it was to make individual shelters that would only be seated one time a night, that had enough airflow coming through, fresh air, warmed, coming through, and then vented to where the air within the individual structure cleared out faster than an ICU COVID room. And so because of zoning, which has been amazing with us, by the way, I'm not like complaining about zoning or anything like that. The best way for us to do it was to take greenhouses and modify them.
Hello and welcome to Year of the Pivot on the Beyond Networking podcast. This season, we're learning from individuals and organizations who made monumental shifts in 2020 in order to keep their business alive and continue the mission. I'm your host, Brian Miller, and author, speaker, and consultant on human connection. Today's featured pivoter is Tyler Anderson. Tyler is a chef and owner of multiple high-end restaurants. He's also a James Beard Award nominee and appeared on both the Food Network and Top Chef on Bravo. And if you're thinking, didn't you recently interview a restaurant owner? I did. This is a companion episode to my conversation with Pam Paydos. In fact, Pam connected me with Tyler in the first place many years ago. Pam's restaurant, Popover, and Tyler's flagship restaurant, Millwrights, are in the same small Connecticut town. And like Pam, Tyler has not only stayed in business, but remained a pillar of the community through all the insanity of the last year. But that's where the similarities stop. See, while Pam's restaurant is a tiny breakfast and lunch bakery nestled in a quaint shopping plaza, Tyler's Millwrights is a massive fine dining dinner establishment overlooking a waterfall. While Pam's pivot was to remodel, nurture the relationship with her loyal customers, and make the most of her petite square footage, Tyler built dine-in greenhouses. Honestly, this episode is wild, and I don't want to spoil it. So check the show notes for all of the ways to connect with Tyler. Head to yearofthepivot.com for the Pivot Power newsletter. Get notified when a new episode drops, the Pivot Pearl of the Week, and gain access to exclusive live streams, masterminds, and clubhouse get-togethers. And now I bring you Tyler Anderson. This episode was made possible by Riverside.fm. Capture full, high-quality, raw audio and up to 4K video natively and without any internet interruptions. That's right, even if the internet blips out during the live call, your recording remains pristine. Head to riverside.fm for your free trial and a big thank you for sponsoring Year of the Pivot. Tyler, it's good to see you. You're here. You've got a signal. You've got a quick break in your day, although you've probably, what did you say? You have seven meetings online already today.
Yeah, quite a few.
So we'll make this to the point. What are you working on right now, this week, this weekend? What's going on in your life, in your restaurant?
Well, we're working on getting ready for the holidays. It's a time that's normally very busy for us. It'll be a little hit and miss this year. But we're working on getting Christmas Eve stuff going, getting New Year's Eve stuff going, possibly facing a shutdown. So getting ready for that. And, moving forward, every week is something different in this. So we just try to bite it off week by week and keep it chugging.
Yeah, just every week is something different. I mean, the restaurant industry has never been an easy industry from what I understand, having many friends in the industry. You know, it seems incredibly difficult and kind of touch and go, even in the best of times. I can't imagine trying to plan for holidays, which are hard to plan for to begin with, right? That's a whole other ballgame in a normal world, right?
Yeah, it's a little unique. And the key to all this is trying to figure out what it is that people are looking for. What are people looking for the holidays? So we try to stay very informed. Definitely we try to follow the science with all of this stuff. And we try to stay one step ahead by being informed on what we think people want. It's sort of the key to restaurants. You're exactly right. Running a restaurant is, if you're not in love with doing it, it's the worst job in the world. But for people like me, it's the only job in the world. So here we are. So you'll never hear me complain about how hard it is to run a restaurant. I'll complain to my wife about that because I've tried to do other things and it just doesn't work. But this year has certainly been a challenge in and of itself. So yes, it makes it a lot harder for sure.
That really hit me when you just said, you'll never hear me complaining apart from to my wife, because I said to my wife back when we were just dating, and I was, at that time I was a touring magician before I had switched careers into speaking and all this other stuff. And I remember saying to her, don't let me complain for longer than 5 minutes on any given day about my job. I said, because obviously any job in the world has its down days and has its rough patches. Being a magician is no easy task, but at the end of the day, I'm a magician for a living. Right. And I was a relatively successful one at that. So I was like, I'll complain for 5 minutes, but after 5 minutes, you have the right to say, all right, enough's enough. You do card tricks for a living, So no. Okay. So let's back up to like January or February this year, before COVID, before we all knew that this was coming, or at least in the way that it came. And if you had been at a social gathering or a networking event or met someone through friends and they didn't know you from anybody, and they said, what do you do? What was your answer, or what is your answer?
What do I do for a living, or what do I do with the COVID thing?
No, before COVID, before we all knew about this, if you had just met someone, they said, what do you do? I run restaurants. Just straightforward, no pomp and circumstance.
That's what I do.
That. Give us a little bit more, because anybody watching, listening, or reading this, because it's going to be in many different places, they'll have got my 2-sentence description of who you are and your background. But you do more than just run restaurants. So you can take off the humble hat for a second and give us a little bit more about what you really do.
I mean, I'm a chef by trade. I've been a cook my entire life. Cooking is the base of everything I do in this business, but the more and more we end up doing as chef owners of restaurants, it seems like the less and less cooking we end up doing. So it all comes back to that, though. Like, at the base of what I do, I'm a cook. I like to cook. I like to make people happy. I like instant gratification. I love the intensity of working in a restaurant. And, like I said, it comes down to the fact that we like making people happy, and that's why we work in this business.
So interesting that you said you like instant gratification. That's something I rarely hear people admit to. Does being a chef play into that, right? Because you make it, you hand it, they eat it, and just instantly you see 100%. People smile.
It's a lot of chefs by nature are very impatient people, and I am certainly one of those. And I've come to grips with the fact that that's what I do, and that's who I am. And I know that I'm impatient, and I like instant gratification, and I like knowing that guests have had a good time by staring out into the dining room and seeing smiling faces.
It's interesting, though, because the instant gratification aspect makes me wonder about this year with everything that's happened. On one hand, I could see that being something you thrived on this year by saying, all right, today, every day is a new day, and today we're going to figure out how to beat this day. And if you like instant gratification, that's great. On the other hand, not being able to plan for anything, how have you been handling that with your personality type?
That's been a stretch. So it's like, you have to, when you're a chef, when you're a cook by nature, part of what makes a good cook is the ability to problem solve and think on your feet. It's a matter of 20 problems within a 3-hour period that need to be addressed and taken care of right away and in the right way. So the forethought that it's taken to try to, as the owner of the businesses now, the forethought that it's taken to try to see where this thing is going to be a week from now, 2 weeks from now, 3 weeks from now, 4 weeks from now has been a huge stretch for me. Thankfully, I mean, everybody says this, but I have a great staff. I have an amazing team, and my team has allowed me to sit and think more than I ever do. I'm sort of a spastic, so I'm like all over the place, running. But the ability to just, as a business owner, to sit and think and to try and come up with the best solution for what's going to happen try to guess what the next step will be has been so crucial along the way here. And I have great partners. I have great teams. So that's allowed me to do that.
How are you guessing in the in these days, in the middle of this year? Are you paying attention to community forums? I mean, you're very involved in the community here, and I know that because I actually live here, right? Which is something
Right.
I wouldn't get to say about most of the people I interview here. So, do you pay attention to that? Are you and other restaurant owners? I spoke with our mutual friend Pam Paydos, who's one of my favorite people in the world, and for this project, and she was mentioning how certainly at the beginning of the pandemic and mostly still, the local restaurant owners have really banded together in a way that they never had before, at least on that level. How are you staying in touch with what people want? Do people even know what they want in the middle of this?
No, they don't, because like I said, things change every week. So how can people be consistent? I don't expect them to be consistent, but I think what it is my partner AJ and myself, we've sort of started watching the news more than we ever did before. And we watch everything. So I watch, there's no politics here, but I'll watch CNN, NBC, Fox. I'll watch BBC. I watch all those things just to get a view of how people are feeling based on what they're watching. Also, like, there's this constant gathering of information that happens via social media, and I'm on that more than I ever have been. It's not something I love, but I feel like it's part of the job right now. I feel like you get a good pulse of how people are feeling from being on there and being active there. And just like a constant gathering of information, things from our guests, feedback directly to the restaurant we promote. I give my personal email to, a lot of guests. And so a lot of guests, know that they can contact me directly. But it's just gathering all of the information, filtering it, finding out what's best for this spot, and then spitting it out on the other side.
You give your personal email to guests. I don't know almost any, if any, restaurant owners that would do that or invite that level of potential direct criticism. Do you mostly get positive feedback, or do you get criticism? Why did you start giving out your personal email? That seems crazy.
So we did it. We've done it when we've done major, like when we've made major changes. So when we went to just carry out, I wanted to know directly to me how people thought that our carry out product was. Two things. Number one, it gets me the information directly, and number two, it doesn't. If somebody has a negative experience, maybe it doesn't go up for the masses to see, and maybe it's something we can fix, a problem that we can fix before it gets to that. We're here to make people happy. So if they don't have the ability to contact me when we've done something big and bold and new and weird to tell me where it is, I'm doing it for them. I'm not doing it for me. So I want to make sure that, at least we're headed the right direction.
Really interesting that you would bring that in directly, but what a great way to stay in touch with what people actually want and to respond to when people don't like something. Have you had people say something that they didn't like and you decided they're right, but I don't want to change that, but that's a thing, that this is something we do, and if they don't like it, they can just go somewhere else?
That's a good question. Every once in a while, normally there's a reaction, it's, listen, we have a lot of people coming through these doors in a year. So, different people have different opinions on food, certainly, just like art, just like magicians, just like anything. So it is, just because one person does say something, it doesn't mean that's going to change. It's sort of like looking for trends, I guess. And everyone who has any sort of constructive criticism for my restaurants, for me, whatever, I do consider that thing. There's nothing that I say, poo-poo, whatever. Like I said, our goal is to make people happy. And if people weren't happy with their experience in my restaurant, then that does affect me personally. It shouldn't. And the older I get and the more I do it, it probably affects me a little less, but I still take those things to heart, certainly. And when somebody takes their time to reach out and tell me that they didn't like something, I take that very seriously.
Yeah. you take it seriously, and from what I'm hearing from you, you take it seriously because it's it's a big thing for someone to do, to actually reach out directly to the owner and to say to the owner, essentially to their face, because they're sending you an email, not the restaurant, not
Right.
office at Millwrights or whatever, but they're sending it to Tyler at Millwrights. You know, I imagine that takes a lot for somebody, and I feel the same way when I've had the luckily very rare but criticism of my book. After 3 years of writing a book, when somebody writes a bad review, you're just like,
Yeah,
oh
that's gotta
Jesus,
be
you know what I
rough.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
and there's been very few of them, but when somebody did, I actually tracked them down and reached out to them personally, and I said, listen, can I give you a refund? And like they bought it from Amazon,
Right.
and I was like,
Right.
can
Right.
I give you your $16 back? Because I don't want you to feel like you didn't get your money's worth.
Exactly.
And I didn't think it meant my book was bad, but it was bad for them. It was not right for them, and you can't
Right.
rewrite the book, so there's nothing you can do at that point. But
Right.
um, so walk me through this year. So it's March. It's like, I don't know, March 10th, 12th,
14th.
14th,
Yeah.
14th, right?
March
It was
14th.
those, it was those like 48 hours I'll never forget as long as I live, as I watched the entire global live event industry collapse around me with a
Yep.
baby on the way. And I was like, oh no,
Brutal
oh
for that.
no,
Yeah.
like this is
Yeah.
all I've ever done.
Right.
So talk me through that. What was the initial reaction, and then what were your first steps? What were your first thought process? What did you do?
Well, I'll admit that the initial reaction was a tiny bit of relief, because what had happened just previously to that is almost what's happening now. Consumer confidence gets so low that you're open, you're trying to keep everyone employed, and you're losing money because no matter what you do, guests aren't going to come to your restaurant, right? So it was the idea, just the thought of closing the restaurants and laying a bunch of people off was terrible, and it was a terrible thing to have to do, but it gave me this small sense of relief, honestly, knowing that I had to do it. I didn't have a choice. Like, I had to do it. We had to close, we had to lay everyone off, we had to figure out how to come back from it. So it sounds very strange, but that was my first instinct, was that, or my first feeling was that, a small sense of relief, not a major sense of relief. And then we sort of took 4 days off, regrouped, and do you want the whole story?
I do. I
Okay.
really do. Yeah.
So then we regrouped. We got together. We decided we would open for carryout. So we got some employees back, and we started carryout. The support during that carryout period was amazing. Millwrights is a fine dining restaurant. We're not known for our carryout. Part of this, in every phase, we sort of sit back and we say, what do we have that gives us an advantage? What do we have that gives us a disadvantage? And if we can take the disadvantages and somehow work them into advantages, then we will have succeeded. And we found that we are a fine dining restaurant, but we switched to a much more casual takeout thing. People are used to paying sort of a premium for Millwrights stuff. We use the best ingredients. We do all of that. So we wanted to make it affordable, but at the same time, we knew that we didn't have to do 1,000. We didn't have to have 1,000 people ordering carryout from us to make it work. Thankfully, many, many, many people did, and it was awesome. And so we continued on. Then as things started to, I guess, turn into the ability to dine outside would be the next phase.
Yep.
There's a place in our restaurant. Two things that we had going for us, definitely. Number one, we're in Simsbury, so we're it's a safe place, right? It feels safe. Feels safe to me. I live here too. Feels safe to me, and we liked that. Number two, we have space and lots of it. It's a big restaurant, so we wanted to use those two things to our advantage. There was a bridge seat, or we have a beautiful bridge that overlooks a waterfall, and we have a path. And for a lot of the time here, my partner and I had wanted to put tables out there, and we're never really allowed to because it wasn't zoned for that. And we wanted to put a kitchen out there because we wanted to be able to separate our staff so that we weren't on top of each other during all this pandemic stuff. So we were able to cluster our staff. So we put a kitchen out there. We put about 18 tables out there. Yeah, 18 tables out there, and it was very busy. I mean, it's a beautiful setting. We're very fortunate to have it.
Yeah.
It was nice. All the while, we're still doing our carryout, so not open inside. Then we open inside at 50%. We only opened our dining room, and we only opened on Fridays and Saturday nights because, again, we didn't want the restaurant to be too crowded. We didn't want to have any cases of COVID. We didn't want it spread within our staff. So we started only Friday, Saturday nights until the weather started to go bad. Meanwhile, we started a taco truck, and we bought a trailer to cater. And because we knew catering indoors was not gonna be good this year, so we bought a trailer to be able to cater whenever, wherever, however. We could come to you. We don't need any utility. It's completely self-sustained. That was good. And then we got pulled back on the amount of people we could have for a party. So we knew we had to pivot the trailer. I've always wanted to do a barbecue and taco thing. So we set up a barbecue and taco restaurant in our parking lot here at Millwrights, because it is very important to me. We have the tavern, which is casual, and it's very important to us that we offer that sort of casual thing as well as being a special occasion restaurant. So we set that up in the parking lot, and that was in the parking lot for a lot of the summer. And then slowly, as the weather started to get bad, we knew that this outdoor fantasy wouldn't last forever. So we started working on the idea of having heated greenhouses. Rolled through those. They were shut down. We spent a lot of money buying greenhouses. That idea.
All right, hang on.
Yeah.
Time out. The greenhouses. Yeah. We gotta pause on the greenhouses, because first, everything you already said is so above and beyond what the average restaurant either did or was able to do in America, right? Because so many places. I mean, my brother lives in Seattle, and he said, some 70% of all the mom and pops, the locally owned restaurants, all shut down by I don't know what it was, June or whatever. They were all gone before they even hit the summer. So you were able to, you had a couple of things working in your favor, safe place, good weather, summer. You obviously had the ability financially to make some interesting choices, and you made some, and I feel like you kind of breezed over the fact that taco truck wasn't an obvious choice for Millwrights. I mean, that wasn't like the thing everybody goes, oh yeah, that's obviously what they would have done.
Yeah.
How did you come to taco truck? Just always wanted to do it. Why not now?
So I was born and raised in Southern California. So I spent more time in Tijuana as a youth than my mother would care to ever know about. And I was a surfer. So there was definitely this culture with go to Mexico, go surfing, go to the taco places, go to the bar, go to the taco places again, pass out on the beach, go surfing. So that's what I came from. And I've always wanted to have a taco restaurant, and I love barbecue. So the ability to take those two, aside from fine dining, the two food things that I love most, tacos and barbecue, and fuse them together was something that's always been in my mind. So it didn't just spring from nowhere. This is like me truly cooking the food from my childhood. In the neighborhood I grew up in, there were a lot of our neighbors. It was a Mexican neighborhood. So a lot of our neighbors would pop up taco spots on the weekends out of their garages at their house. And the whole neighborhood would go over there, and the mom would be griddling tacos and making the stews, the guisados, and all that other stuff. And it's some of the best food experiences I've ever had. So the whole model for the truck was sort of built out of that.
That's awesome. So, all right, so let's get to the greenhouses now, because the greenhouse was what prompted me to reach out to you about the Pivot Project. When you did that, I mean, you'd already done amazing things this year, and I was just gearing up to start this series of interviews, and then it just dropped in my newsfeed on Facebook, Tyler's doing greenhouses. And I saw the photo, and I was just like, what in the world is that? So what are they? And talk me through what has now been a saga. In fact, the reason you and I did not connect on the first time around, if I believe right, when we had scheduled this, because you were still on the phone dealing with stuff related to the greenhouses. So what are they? Right. What's the story?
So the greenhouses, my wife is immunocompromised. So she has she's high risk, COVID high risk, which is one of the reasons We're extremely, extremely safe, and I am extremely safe as I can be in my personal life while still leaving the house. So we wanted to create the safest possible dining experience we could think of. So my partner AJ and I got together, and we thought of like, how can we create what's the safest dining experience we can create if we had no budget, right? So basically, it was to make individual shelters that would only be seated one time a night, that had enough airflow coming through, fresh air warmed coming through, and then vented to where the air within the individual structure cleared out faster than an ICU COVID room. And so because of zoning, which has been amazing with us, by the way, I'm not like complaining about zoning or anything like that. The best way for us to do it was to take greenhouses and modify them, greenhouse kits, and modify them to work for us in this situation. So it meant we weren't building a structure from scratch. We were building a kit. But my partner is very good with construction, and he was able to take a greenhouse shell and sort of turn it into something much more.
It's so bananas. And if I remember reading this correctly, because there was a great article in, I forget what it was in. Was it in the Current? There was a great article about the greenhouses. And right around the time I saw the article about it, I also read the news. I think you had maybe posted about it, you and the fellow restaurateurs, that out of nowhere, after you'd spent all the money and the energy and the effort, it got shut down and then opened back up. Do I remember that right?
Yeah. And that one wasn't just us either.
Yeah.
There's these decisions. They made a bad decision, right? And the decisions can't just come at restaurants like that have put a bunch of money into it. So yes, we did put a lot of money into it, and we did have greenhouses, but there are a bunch of other restaurants around us who also spent, mom and pops. Like, I'm a mom and pop restaurant, but we're also like, we're a big restaurant. We're a known restaurant. We've been here a while. We're established. But there are all these places that spent thousands of dollars on these little structures, and all of a sudden, these little structures that they just decided to put out because the weather was turning were illegal. So, working with the CRA, the Connecticut Restaurant Association, using social media to make people aware of the situation, and just sort of pushing it through ourselves, we were able to get that turned around. The DECD worked really well with us. Governor Lamont's office worked really well with us, and they reversed the greenhouse thing completely.
Yeah, that's great. And I was thrilled to see that then. And I think I saw there was a big support from basically your fans, your community, your patrons, and you really do have fans. I said that to Pam too. There's very few restaurants that really ever achieve the status of having fans and not just patrons, and you have fans. And there was a huge outpouring and calls and emails, I believe, right to the state, to whoever the right people were on your behalf.
It was awesome, and it struck. I think it struck a lot of people's chords because it was BS. It was instead of like seeing what and you know what? Listen, I agree. You, me, and 15 of our friends should not be sitting in a bubble that's not ventilated, thinking that we're safe, right? I mean, but who thinks that? So instead of going on a case-by-case basis and seeing what people's plans were, just to make them illegal as a whole, I think people realized that it was probably not the right idea, and a lot of people got behind it, and that was awesome to see. And I'm very thankful for that, for sure.
And just to close out that story before we kind of pull into the end here, I saw somebody say, and I don't have this confirmed, so you can confirm for me, did you basically book up for for months immediately with the greenhouses?
Yeah, we've booked. We pretty much booked an entire month and a half flat. The entire month and a half. It's always weird going into the new year because reservations are always strange in January. January is very slow, but people in this year, they're not thinking about making reservations for next year. So we do have a lot of reservations for next year, and we're hoping to run the thing through the entire winter. We have really good HVAC going to it, and we're able to achieve about 40 degrees warmer than it is outside. So we should be in business in 15-degree weather. Yeah, they book fast. And we're about to release a lot of twos. So the twos that we have are booked until March. But we have fours, and then we have one that seats up to 8. And then we're going to release a lot of 2s. We actually are converting our bridge now into greenhouse spots for 2 people as well.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So, Tyler, I've got 3 quick questions that are the final questions I'm asking everybody. These are, I ask everybody the same final 3 questions. It's a way for me to categorize the 40, 50 interviews I'm doing and be able to figure out where the themes fit with each other and where all the stories kind of intersect. So the first of the 3 is absolutely the hardest based on my experience in the last few weeks. So take your time. I will edit out any long, weird pauses.
All right.
How would you describe your 2020 this year? How would you describe this year in one word?
Chaos.
Didn't have to think about that at all.
Nope.
I don't even think you need an explanation based on everything we've already talked about.
Nope.
Okay, next question. What characteristics or personality traits of yours in particular would you say were crucial to your business's survival this year?
Well, number 1, I embrace chaos. I'm a punk rock kid. I've always liked a little, like controlled chaos. I enjoy those situations to a certain point. That's probably one of them. Along with that, there are a lot less rules for us as restaurateurs. A lot of people have flexed and there's a lot less red tape for when we want to get something done. That's a world I work better in. I am pretty good at putting a team together, and the team I've put together here is like really performed in all of this. And I don't ever stop.
Yeah. It's funny too, because you kind of, without realizing it, just kind of called back to the beginning of the conversation when you mentioned instant gratification being something that's part of who you are, and you just said, oh, they kind of removed the red tape, so we can just go. We can just do stuff.
Yeah, they've been very supportive of ideas that we've had, and it's been good.
It's awesome. All right, last question. At this point, it's December. It's middle of December, almost kind of December 2020. What is your outlook right now on the future of your business, your restaurants?
My restaurants, I have a few restaurants. Some of them sit in better shape than others. The ones that are we have restaurants in New Haven. We have restaurants in Hartford downtown. Those restaurants they're in hotels, and they're going to take some effort. But we have good partners, and we're confident. And Millwrights, I think that we just keep chugging along. I feel good about it. I feel good about the vaccine, because the thing is with the vaccine that makes me feel better is that from a selfish point of view, and I think a lot of Americans and a lot of people across the world think like this. This thing is something that you want to save the high risk people from. And so I feel that when the high risk people have a vaccine that's been proven and that they're safe, that I think consumer confidence will go up. So I think we'll see a turn in restaurants faster than a lot of people are saying, faster than the late summer, fall of next year thing. God, I hope so. Yeah. But I think in March, we should start seeing our numbers tick back up. So with the light at the end of the tunnel, it's just push until then and keep on trucking.
Awesome. Well, listen, before I let you go, where should people who maybe don't live in the area, they don't live in Connecticut, they might live in some other country, where should people go find you? Do you want them to connect with you personally, professionally, LinkedIn, social media? Do you want them to find your restaurants? Where should people look you up or go check you out?
Instagram's the best. My Instagram is at Chef Tyler Anderson. I'm pretty active on there, and especially these days, gathering the information. Did you hear about our latest endeavor?
Maybe. Tell me.
So, can I go right now on it?
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you know that we have a hotel, the Goodwin Hotel in downtown Hartford?
Sure.
Obviously, downtown's been hit really hard because, and those are the restaurants that need a lot of people's support right now, for sure. Downtown, who knows when it's going to be coming back? So when we go back to what are our advantages and disadvantages, a big disadvantage is obviously that we're in a city and that we're in a hotel, but that's also an advantage because we're in a hotel that is not very booked. Hotels are not very busy right now, believe it or not. So I was brought the idea of partnering with one of the local theaters, Theater Works, to create something. And as this sort of like advanced, I love the idea of doing like a dinner mystery sort of thing that was low contact. But as this thing sort of spiked more, we knew that wasn't going to work. So what we've done is at the Goodwin, we are taking. We have 21 rooms. It's an old looking hotel, right? It's like it was built in 1880 by J.P. Morgan. It's very classic. So we have these small rooms with fireplaces in them. We're taking the beds out. We're putting tables into the rooms. And what we're doing is we're creating a completely, you can either get it contactless or near contactless, escape room meets dinner theater experience in your room. We just announced it yesterday.
That's so cool.
A local PR company and a local theater to create. I like the idea of people dining. Obviously it's very, very safe to dine in your own hotel room. You're the only people there for the night, whatever. It will not look like a hotel room. The beds are out of it. No wacky stuff going on. Sure. But to create an experience around that isn't just you and I eating dinner in a hotel room. So we are writing a little bit of historical mystery theater thing that you can, and it won't be too difficult, but it'll be a fun way to enjoy dinner, and the food and the dinner experience goes along with the story as well.
Man, that is so cool. I'm gonna have to look out for that, and I'll make sure that by the time this hits wherever, YouTube and everywhere else, that there's a link to that in the show notes description, wherever that is, because that's
good one. And it's called room service because room service won't get shut down.
Room service at the Goodwin. That's awesome. Well, I tell you, and you just describing that gets me so excited for a post-COVID, or at least a vaccinated, it's a little bit safer COVID world, because you and I for years have danced around the same circles and have never found a way to connect on a really high-end exclusive magic show at Millwrights, which is something that we definitely need to do at some point now that you've been able to work with a theater group and had that experience of working with entertainment to build it in. That gets me excited for future collaboration potentials. So listen. Oh, you know what? Last actual question. What's your favorite Food Network appearance you've done if people want to go find you or search out an episode?
Food Network, I would say none of them. They're all fine. Top Chef. I was on Top Chef season 15. That was the coolest experience because it's more than just a day. I think that's a great show. I think, and I'm not just saying that because I'm trying to kiss ass and get back on it. But I think it's a great show. I think they show people as they are. They don't try to make up stories. It's not overly dramatic. I've enjoyed all the shows I've been on, but Top Chef definitely was the best.
That's awesome. It's so funny too, because I said Food Network, but actually my most vivid memory is probably of Top Chef.
So people do that all the time.
Well, listen, I know you're tired of being on video. We're all tired of being on video. Go on with your day. Congratulations on all the success that you and your team, and your team deserves a ton of credit as you've given them already, but I'll say it too, because what is it?
And a break. They deserve a break.
And a break. I have no doubt. But yeah, when we used to dine in the restaurant in pre-COVID times, they were just the best of the best, and everything's been great this year. So congratulations, good luck.
Yeah.
And we will be in touch.
Sounds great.